Hey, what's up? That's probably none of my business. But you know what is my business? The capacity of your intelligence, which is what we're going to discuss today. Specifically you. Specifically the viewer's intelligence. All at once. I am going to make you comprehend the fourth dimension. That's right, I'm going to do the unthinkable. By making something thinkable. Alright, what is a dimension, you may ask? Well, usually in video games, dimensions are planes of existence. Okay? Alright? If someone says you're going to go to the shadow dimension, then you're just going to go to probably like a dark, spooky, purple place. But instead of exploring dark and purple, spooky places, today we are going to explore the fourth dimension specifically, which is not spooky at all. I mean, it's a little spooky because no one knows anything about it, but we're gonna figure it out. All right, so look, if we're gonna look at the fourth dimension, I don't know why I opened this marker. If we're gonna look at the fourth dimension, we are going to have to look to all of the past dimensions before it and come up with patterns to suggest what the fourth dimension's qualities are. All right, are you listening to me? Look at this, okay? Let's start with the dimension of zero, okay? Look, this is a zero. Some people put a slash through it, but those people are annoying, so don't do that. This is the zeroth dimension. You ready? Boom. What's that? What is that? It's just a freaking dot, okay? It's just a small little dot. Can you see it from the, I don't know if you can see that. All right, if you go to Lowe's and you see an aisle full of these things, and you look at the sticker on the aisle, it's gonna say 0 height and 0 width, because this thing has absolutely no dimensions. It's literally just a dot, okay? It's just a dot. All right, now let's look at the first dimension, all right? Look at this. Bam! You know what that is? That's a freaking line. This thing only has one dimension, which is height. Or width, maybe. Whichever one you fancy that day. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just one or the other, okay? You see what I'm saying? Alright, so once again, going to Lowe's, right? You see an aisle just full of lines, just full of some lines, right? You say, oh, okay, this is like what, 4 inches in height, and it's, oh, surprise, it's got no width. That's not even possible in this plane of existence. This is only possible in purple and spooky existences like in the video games, okay? Alright, and then you might be asking yourself, well, what if you make this line curved, like that? Wouldn't that still be the first dimension? Wrong! It's not! Watch this! That's what... Bam! Look at that! This is two-dimensional. Okay, I just drew a line from this to that, and since I have 3 non-collinear points, therefore, this is a plane. This is a freaking banana. All right, this is a plane. It's like a flat thing that it's like height and width, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna write it too. Like that'll be on there in the video for like 4 seconds. All right, you know what else is a two-dimensional figure? Boom! A freaking circle! Alright, so we are going to use circles for the remainder of this video because, you know what? The cool thing about circles is if you start from the center of the circle and see the distance from the center to any point on the outside border, that distance is called the radius, and that distance, called the radius, is going to be the same no matter which point you go to on the outside of the circle. And so I thought, hey, that's gotta be good for something, right? Okay, so in order to figure out what the fourth dimension exactly is and how humans can comprehend it, we need to first consider all of the qualities of the previous dimensions, such as the zeroth dimension, the first dimension, the second dimension, and the one we haven't discussed yet, the third dimension. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 4. This is the one we're looking for. Okay, this is crazy, man. We're making strides in the scientific. There are 3 qualities we're going to be looking at. Okay. Circumference. These are all qualities of a circle. I'm gonna list. Okay, so circumference is the thing it's the length of the thing, right? You know what I'm talking about. All right, surface area. Okay. Now you could be saying to yourself, well, why don't you just say area? Because isn't that easier to say than surface area? Like, who says surface, right? Well, if we're talking about a sphere, then no one says just area of a sphere, because you don't know if you're talking about just a little, like a cross section of the sphere, or the entire surface area of the sphere. So don't freaking patronize me. Okay, look at this, all right? We also have volume. Now, volume is a quality of an object that only applies to three-dimensional objects. So we'll see how that pans out. Okay, circumference of a 0th dimension. Once again, the 0th dimension, that's just a freaking dot, all right? So the circumference is gonna be 0, and you know what? We'll draw the slash through it because, I don't know, I changed my mind. Okay, surface area, once again, 0, volume, 0. Okay, you know what? Actually, this is driving me insane. I'm gonna have to... Okay, sorry, I changed my mind. I changed my mind. Okay, let's go to the first dimension, which, as we discussed before, is just a line. So the circumference is going to be... Alright, so let's just think about this for a sec. If you have a circle, as we discussed before, this is a two-dimensional object, okay? And in order to create a one-dimensional object from a two-dimensional object, you just have to squish it until it becomes a line. This is the radius, right? We'll call that r. And so this length, right, is d, which is effectively 2 times r, which is the diameter. Okay, so if we crush this circle, if we just crush this, here, I'll probably do some kind of After Effects thing. Okay, so look, if we squish this circle into a line, it's magical effects, right? And then this will be length d, which equals 2 times the radius. So the circumference will be 2r. If we move on to the surface area, well, let's think about this. What is another shape that this line could be condensed from? Oh, I know. A freaking square! If you just closed in these walls, kind of like you see in those, like a trope in an action movie. Like there's some characters here, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna die, but they never do because they're the protagonists of the story and they're needed for the plot. So they're actually going to die in this case, though. So it gets condensed into a line, right, which is a first dimensional figure. But before that, we need to say, hey, this is the height and this is the width of the square, right? So now the height is retained, but the width is brought to 0. And the area of a square is going to be height times width. And guess what? The width just got to be 0. And so 0 times anything is just 0. I said all of that to explain. I just even wrote my own little action movie just to explain that this is 0. With a slash, there's no slash. I decided there's no slash. And the volume, same thing as 0, okay? All right, now circle. Okay, things get a little more complicated because circles are involved, which are shapes. The circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, okay? That's just a thing I'm not gonna prove it for you guys. Okay, surface area of a circle is pi r squared. Once again, just look in pretty much any geometry textbook and you will see it. And volume is 0, once again. All right, so now in the third dimension, we are going to use this enigma of an object that is known as a sphere. And this one kind of looks like the guy from Assassination Classroom. But the circumference of a sphere, once again, you just take a cross section from the sphere, kind of like this thing in the middle, and that can be 2 pi r once again. But the surface area of a sphere is 4 times the surface area of a circle. So it is 4 pi r squared. Once again, I'm too lazy to actually prove that to you, but just trust me on this, okay? All right, the volume is freaking 4/3 pi r cubed. You understand that? I'm sorry. What? Brent, I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying. What do you... Oh, I'm too abrasive? Okay, so apparently I'm being too abrasive for the audience. So I will continue to be calm. So we have all the things, and so now from these things we will use patterns and stuff to predict qualities about a fourth dimensional object that doesn't exist. But I'm gonna make you comprehend it. I haven't comprehended it myself yet, but this is a learning experience for both of us. All right, let's look at the circumferences, okay? So this is 0, okay, and it goes up to 2r, okay? So from here to here, you just multiply by pi, okay, to move from there. But then this is the same as this. So let's just take the average of those two actions and just multiply by 1/2 pi. That makes sense, right? So 2 pi r times 1/2 pi is simply pi squared r. So that is the circumference of a fourth dimensional spheroid object thing. And the surface area, okay, so it goes from pi r squared to 4 pi r squared. So once again, you simply just multiply by 4, so this is pretty easy. So this is going to be 16 pi r squared. And then the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. And we don't actually have anything to go off of because that number kind of just came out of nowhere. So, but I don't really like fractions, so we're just gonna eliminate the fraction. We're just gonna multiply by 3, and that'll be 4 pi r cubed. Okay, so now, in order to comprehend the fourth dimension and put a number to it, we will take the average of these three numbers and find the manifestation that is the fourth dimension. Okay, so pi squared r plus 16 pi r squared plus 4 pi r cubed plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this is the average, and I just realized something. We don't have a value for r. Okay, this is a problem because we don't. Oh my god. The value of r is so obvious. This entire time I've been looking for the fourth dimension. I just need to substitute in the number 4. It's so simple. R is 4. Okay. So now if we substitute in 4 for r, so we get 4 pi squared plus, 4 squared is 16 times 16 is 256 pi. And then plus 4 cubed is 64 times 4 is 256. So plus 256 pi. And then all over 3, we get 549.325 if you round up. This is the number that represents the fourth dimension. What was the purpose of this video again?